Hello and welcome to Ideas Student Society guest speaking event for September 2020. It is September 10th, 2020 at 7 p.m. and we are very excited to host Hope Glembo and Anya Gumberg to speak to us about marine biology. They both have backgrounds, bachelor's degrees in marine biology, but have gone in very different directions with their exposure and experience in education. So they have very kindly agreed to come speak with us about how that influenced their career choices and their experience with education and with research, how they are where they are today, and how students in our programs might find a similar path, and maybe this will be the science for you. So we're very excited to have them. Thank you both so much for speaking with us. And I will turn the floor over to you. Our plan is to do a presentation by Anya and Hope. And then if you have questions along the way, you can drop them in the chat. Otherwise, we can do a Q&A afterwards following the presentation. We ask that people stay muted while our speakers are speaking. Otherwise, we hope you enjoy. Oh, I should introduce myself. I'm horrible at that. I'm sorry. My name is Ellie Streetweiser. I'm the president of Ideas Student Society. We also have our Vice President of Operations, Sam, here as well as many of our appointed officers in attendance. Now I'll pass it over. I'm really bad about introducing literally everybody. So my apologies on that.
All right, thank you for the kind introduction. I'm Hope, and I will go ahead and share my screen. Is this working?
Yes, it works perfectly fine.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, so hi everyone, my name is Hope. I am originally from the state of Washington, which looked a lot more like this before all the fires, unfortunately. And then I moved to Scotland actually for my where I started my bachelor's program, and ended up transferring to UC San Diego, which is this middle picture. I met Anya in a sorority for science and engineering women. And then I currently reside in Los Angeles. Also, feel free to ask me questions at any point in time. Just jump on in. So a little bit more about who I am. My undergraduate degree, I got a certificate in engineering from the University of Glasgow. I kind of had an idea that I wanted to head into patent law as an undergrad, but wasn't exactly sure how I wanted to get there. So I started in civil engineering. I wasn't quite the path for me, and I switched then to nanoengineering at UC San Diego, along with marine biology. For the USPTO bar, needed an ABET accredited engineering degree program, and so then I actually transferred to Arizona State University for my electrical engineering bachelor's there because it's ABET accredited. But I loved all my marine bio classes that I was taking at UC San Diego, and kind of realized that there was a way to combine my engineering knowledge that was very problem solving driven with conservation efforts in marine biology. And so did a little bit of research in that, which I will talk about on my next slide. And then I'm currently a graduate student. I am at the UCLA School of Law as a 1L. I'm also currently in the Stanford Student Center for Professional Development, doing an engineering management and science graduate certificate program. So if you have any questions about law school, grad school and engineering, feel free to ask me. And then this is my senior design poster with my teammates from Arizona State University, and this kind of shows how we were able to use engineering knowledge as a way to kind of tackle some marine conservation problems. One of the things that is currently going on in marine biology is how we tag animals, and these little things down here are pop-up satellite archival tags. And we did some research and found that one of the huge issues with these tags is how they currently work is they are attached to an animal. They log data as that animal is swimming around, doing everything it does in the ocean. And then after a set period of time, this tag will pop up off the animal and then be at the surface. It uses satellite transmissions to then send the data back to the researchers. With that, the tag battery is continually running at any point in time after it pops off the animal. And we found that that was kind of a huge issue, because often these batteries die before marine researchers are able to get that logged data back. So what we used is the Arduino platform to figure out how we could monitor signal integrity on those tags. So kind of created like a sleep-wake function. And the nice thing about that is when the signal integrity is high, it allows the tag to be basically on and not asleep. So it'll start to send data back. And then when the signal integrity is low, it puts the tag in a sleep function, which saves the battery significantly. And this is great for a few different reasons. First, tagging is expensive and it's an investment for marine conservation research. So to make sure that you can have every kind of effort to try and get all that logged data that's useful back to the researchers is really nice. And then it also allows for, if those researchers want to try and go and retrieve that tag out of the ocean, it gives them a longer time frame to kind of have an idea of where the tag is. So it's not just floating out in the ocean as another plastic piece. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. And then lastly, my current career plans, I'm very interested in patent law, which combines science and engineering as a background. I am interested in both prosecution and patent policy. Prosecution is the actual filing and application for obtaining a patent for different sorts of inventions. And then patent policy is something I'm especially interested in, as it is how we advocate for the policy that we have in this country regarding patent work. And I think it especially is important for science and engineering background people who, may spend a long time trying to develop something and create something, and to make sure that there's intellectual property protection in that, as well as also encouraging innovation and sciences for the general public good, are something that I'm specifically interested in. An example of current patent policy that's in the court system right now is Section 101 of patent tests. And that is relating to how do we patent things that are like laws of nature, such as Hooke's law, friction damping, anything like that. And that's kind of a hot topic right now, of how do we patent things that are in our natural world and not just things that we are currently creating. And yeah, that's about it for my career plans and where I'm headed. And again, it's kind of a different path. So if you do have any questions, feel free to ask me about it. And I can pass it over to Anya if not.
Well, I could ask you a couple
of
questions.
Yeah, for sure.
First of all, was it a poster presentation for, was an incredible combination of both your science and engineering backgrounds, and a really cool application of it. So I really appreciate you sharing that. Because I think a lot of us kind of at this point, like in our education, are at this point of like classes. I'm in my degree. I know the things I've been exposed to. How do I know where I want to go from here? How do I want to take this bit of knowledge and apply it? Because there's directions that you can go into. So I would ask, how did you get from the point of your bachelor's degree in oceanography, and I apologize, I misspoke before. I just said marine biology very broadly.
It's this at the Scripps oceanography, so it's a marine biology degree.
Okay, all right, good.
Correct.
To exposure to engineering, and then taking those engineering classes, and then finding something I would argue novel to those two, and yet not, but on the surface would seem. How did you navigate that? How was that like shift for you?
So I think I kind of had a difficulty at first because I went from engineering, and I had started taking marine biology classes actually as electives and had no intention of kind of going into it. But the more I took, the more I loved them. And I kind of was sitting in my classes, and my professors would say, oh yeah, this is a current problem we're having. This is a current problem we're having. And I would flip back to my engineering knowledge and say, wait a second, problem solving. We can do this. And I think that there was a lack of often engineers and innovators who go that route. It's not a very common combination. So it was more through trial and error and just exposure than, seeing something and saying, yep, this is exactly what I want to do. I kind of fell into it, but also I think it's important to not let yourself say, oh, my goal is law, so I'm not going to do these other things. I decided to let myself have that time and figure I'm in school, for only so many years. And I had things that I wanted to do before I went to law school, and allowed myself to be open to those options.
Yeah. And then that ended up directing actually how you focused.
Yeah, absolutely.
There. Yeah. So many of our guest speaking events have been that type of story, where it's we attend and we ask questions, and we have this like very broad topic that we think we're here to hear about. Like, how did you go into academia, or how did you apply to your PhD programs? And that like fundamental shift for each person tends to be the unexpected moment, or that one choice that was an elective class, or it was it was an odd lab to try to rotate into, and then it completely changed like their focus. And it's been a really personally like validating experience for me to hear, because you don't always have to know how you're going to end up somewhere, and it's all these like unique opportunities that end up guiding you. And have you found many of your peers within law school that have that kind of surprise twist to their background that got them there?
There are a lot more than I thought that there would have been. It was actually really exciting during orientation because I kind of assumed I would be the only person with a very different background, if it was STEM or if it was something else. And I've met someone with a physics PhD, and I've met someone, who did filmmaking and is now in law school, and someone who owned a hotel chain. And so there's just such a broad background that I think if you find something you're interested in, like I would definitely say, don't let the background that you have discourage you from pursuing something that might seem different than previous experiences.
Yeah, it's really solid advice. Do you have any advice for any of our students that might be at the points, the majority of us are in our bachelor's, however, we do have some master's and graduate program students as well, to if you're considering this, what would you recommend to students as far, and by considering this, I mean like law or patent law or law school or anything along those lines? Do you have a recommendation for how students would get to this point in a STEM bachelor's to law?
To law.
To law.
First is feel free to ask questions from people like me who've done it. I think that was something that I went ahead and did. I tried to reach out to patent attorneys at different firms and said, hey, what's your background? What does this look like? And I started studying for the patent bar as well. I haven't taken it yet, but that also gives a pretty good idea of what patent prosecution at least looks like in terms of filing. And then lastly is the law school process itself. For me, it was fairly daunting, and I do have an engineering and STEM GPA, which I think I'd go to different law school events and be like, oh, I have a 4.0, and I'd be like, okay, and that kind of weighed on me actually for a bit in the process. But some of the best advice I got was I have strengths and skills, and to really recognize that, and to recognize that law school admissions committees especially do value diversity coming in. That's how they create their class. And so when you get into a school, or they admit you, they admit you because they see you there and they see your value in that class. And it's been really interesting. Even at UCLA, we have such a broad background that everyone will be in the group chat. Our dean was talking about the experiences and the accomplishments of our class. And so many people are like, I have imposter syndrome being here. And everyone was like, I have imposter syndrome being here, right? Like, you're the great one. What is this? How am I here? And I think it's so important to kind of be proud of yourself and what you're doing, and be confident in it. And it's also okay to question it. And I think that's normal and okay. And know that it's all right to not be sure.
It was great advice. And probably a little confusing when the person you have imposter syndrome about is telling you they haven't. And it's like the dominoes there of nobody feeling good enough and everybody still there and doing it.
Mm-hmm. I think there's power in that, even when we are kind of fearful or not 100% sure, and you're still showing up and being present and having the courage to do it. I think that speaks more than being afraid about something or being unsure.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, if people have more questions, feel free to unmute and jump in and chat with us. We're very friendly. Or you can drop it in the comments. We often have group members putting kids to bed at this hour, so we get a lot in the chat too at sometimes, where otherwise there's kids in the background and story times and all of that.
And also drop my email in the chat if anyone doesn't feel comfortable or wants to ask me questions later that they think of. Let me know.
Thank you, Hope. I appreciate it. And it sounds like we have a presentation from Anya as well.
Yes, hi everyone. My name is Anya. I graduated from UCSD in 2019. I went to UCSD with Hope, and she definitely was one of the people that encouraged me in the marine biology major part as well, because I was really questioning a lot of things, and she, like everything she said, imposter syndrome, everything, like I looked at Hope, who was doing like multiple degrees and doing so much at once, and I was like, can I do this? And she said, yes, and this is how we're gonna go. And I did it, and it's great. So definitely I totally understand the imposter syndrome. I'm gonna share my screen for my presentation. I'm more of a visual person, so I don't have as many of like the text and stuff like that, but I do have like verbal descriptions to everything. But of course, like, please let me know if you have any questions, and I'll address them. And I can also repeat anything, just like, please let me know. Okay, so how do I present? Oh, sorry, I'm like trying to figure out, there you go. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out technology. Can everybody see my screen still?
It's loading for me.
Okay, great. Then we're all on the same page. So this is my name, Anya Gumberg. I also go by Anna, and I also wanted to say that this mask thing was something I definitely appreciated before COVID, because I felt pretty like, in disguise. So I just wanted to have this visual of me over here. And yeah, that's me actually post surgery, and I'm going to talk about all of my volunteer experiences as well. So initially, out of college, out of high school, I went to Santa Monica College, and it was a very great experience for me. I was part of the STEM program, and there I am right there. And it was really great because they had a separate, they had all these resources, they had tutoring, they had all these workshops and everything, and boot camps to really help support people. So even I learned later on that I guess all of my friends were feeling, imposters, but everyone still pushed through to different fields. I know someone working for JPL, my friend just graduated and he's working for Snapchat. I have everyone from this department started one way and one another, and they had all these great resources. And there I am also studying. And basically this program also had this great opportunity that allowed me to do research. It was called the SMC STEM SRI program, and I got to do research during the summer at UCLA. And the department I picked was in the medical department under Dr. Bertoni, and I got to research on read-through compounds for genetic mutations for Duchenne muscular dystrophy, which was very interesting. I always had an appreciation for medicine, and I thought research was mind-blowing, but actually I took away from this experience that I'm a little too impatient to really have much appreciation for this as a lifelong thing. So that definitely I feel like it was a very trial and error path for me, where I really wanted to be a veterinarian out of high school, and then for whatever my course ended up gearing to, I ended up deciding, okay, maybe medical is more ideal for me. And then I did this research thing, and I said, okay, I can't do medical research because though, for example, Dr. Bertoni is a genius, and she went really far, and she created these read-through compounds to hopefully fix premature mutations that cause these premature stop codons, that is the disease essentially. It took so long for her just to figure it out and make it happen. And now when I was there, I was going through all these databases trying to figure out what the most common premature mutations were, and then we were trying to just create multiple strands of them in lab, and then try to test then we had to test it, and then we had to try to make it an oral thing. So and I was there after 40 years of her research, and to me it still felt like she scratched it, even though she did foundational stuff in general for genetic manipulation stuff in medicine. So that's how I learned that research was really maybe not for me at that scale. And I transferred to UCSD then with a mathematics major. I wanted to do applied mathematics, and sorry, my laptop crashed and I lost all of my photos for the past few years. So this is the best I could do. It's the Google of the UCSD library, where Hope and I spent many nights stressing out. And it was actually in this library where I was talking to Hope about how I'm considering switching my major to marine biology, because to me it felt as much as I appreciated math, I felt for my interest, I was very interested in sustainability and environments and everything. And I was facing the question of biology versus marine biology. And for me, I felt marine biology at UCSD allowed me to look at things from more of a grand scale we saw everything at the microscopic scale as well, but the priority was more all of these different, nutrition cycles and terrestrial and oceological impacts on everything. So it's more grand scale versus the constant teeny tiny proton this and chemical this and that, which I did from studying math, applied mathematics for medicinal sciences, like I did have that language background where I felt like if I needed to adapt and understand a paper or read anything, I felt like I could totally pick up what needed to be done. But as far as to continue studying in this microscopic scale, I didn't felt like it was a fit for me anymore. So then I pushed here. And then I still was kind of like leaning towards the medical field. And then it so happened that basically it was very random, and I'm going to go on a tangent here, but I also hope this inspires people. Essentially what happened was I was randomly, roommates are random, and one of my housemates loved elephants. And she was going on like elephant necklace and elephant tapestry and elephant this and elephant that. And I saw on the internet about this this elephant sanctuary in Thailand, and that I could, volunteer there. And I was telling her about this to kind of like, be like, hey, you could do this. And I ended up convincing myself to just apply and see if I could get in, and I did. And then, oh yeah, this is scripts. I don't have any photos of me doing this, but this is me at Elephant Nature Park, and this is in Chiang Mai, Thailand. And when I got there, it was really interesting because we know about we're hearing all these issues even right now with like conservation and the fires in Australia or here, or deforestation in Asia. There's all these different like environmental issues going on, but then it's not just like it's like animals struggling in this wildlife, it's also how you have expanding cities affecting these wildlife and all these, and then how that influences tourism, and how you have touristic values of having animals in it, and like, is that abuse, is that exploitation, all of that. And then it's not just the goal of this sanctuary was essentially to bring that to light, but then I was meeting like a conservation biologist and then a conservation veterinarian. And I literally got there, and to me, it was just like mind blowing that no one told me this was a career option. Like, this is what I have to do. Like, no questions. Like, this is what I see myself doing. Like, I have to conserve all the wildlife animals that I could possibly get my hands on. So this is me treating, I think this was Shripei. She has a landmine injury, and so that's me just putting like some chlorhexidine on it, and just general soaks and stuff that we would do. And then also I just want to say a side note, this elephant, this is Sukjai. She's blind, and she was blinded as a cost of like ecotourism because of just disobeying her mahout. He got upset, and like that resulted to, they can get kind of cruel, but the sanctuary rescued her, and she's blind. And she came up to me. I didn't go up to this elephant, and I just wanted to say like disclaimer, like please don't, I'm not supporting the animal exploitation thing. I was in addition to assisting the veterinarians there, I also helped them do research. So this kind of opened my door back to research, where I basically was monitoring all these different elephants, and I was monitoring like their eating habits, their drinking habits, their exercise habits, because many of these captive elephants are obese. So it's just all trial and error also. And I was also collecting samples for the veterinarians. And basically after a couple of weeks, she already started getting accustomed to my voice and was coming up to me. And she interacts because she can't see. You have to touch her trunk. So just disclaimer, everybody, sorry, side tangent. So I wanted to inspire everyone how like I got to where I got because of like, it was so random. Like, what were the chances that I went to San Diego, that I got this roommate, that I saw this program? It was like, and I really understand being there where you're like, I don't know what I'm doing, and I think I'm doing this, and I have these hesitations and reservations and everything. That's fair, but I think my advice in general would just be to be open-minded to opportunities that present itself, because it can definitely like, it can literally like, I felt like my world went from being like this big to being that big when I got there. And I'm sure like many other people who feel like they found their niche in their jobs in society can probably agree, where it's just like it seems like a by chance thing, but it's almost like the universe is having everything like lead up to this. So then after doing this research, I was like, okay, maybe I just don't need to do the super nitpicky finite like medical research I was doing at UCLA. Maybe I could just do something else. So at Scripps, so this is Scripps Institute of Oceanography. So I was in Dr. Heckinger's lab, and it was really cool because they were studying parasites. And I feel like that's like something no one talks about, but everyone is affected by. Like, we all hear about global warming and we all hear this, but it's like, even if we stopped global warming and stopped pollution and stopped this, like, there could be something, right? Like we see this today with the virus, like something invisible can literally target all of us and knock us all out. So I feel like parasites and all of that is like so cool. So I was doing research at the Hechinger lab, and I basically was just dissecting fish and crustaceans, and then, you had to dissect them according to different manuals and protocols, and then just observe under microscopes for different parasites. And they all look the same at first, but then after a while, like it's like faces. They have like recognizable faces. So that was also kind of cool. But I didn't want to bore you guys with like those disgusting objects. But yeah, so that's cool. So then I graduated from UCSD, and my goal is to be still a wildlife veterinarian. I'm still picking up on like some of my, class requirements and everything like that, which is why I'm still not in graduate school just yet. So a lot of things are like, in process. But in the meantime, I've definitely been still volunteering abroad. So I graduated from UCSD with a marine bio major and an environmental science minor because I felt like it's all relevant. And I definitely felt like it's very important to see how I could like make the most of the impact, whether it be like to educate and whatnot. Like when I went to Thailand, I came back that year and I was an RA at school. And then I had this whole like event, and I was like, guys, like, did you know, and some of my residents told me that they themselves or someone they know or someone else like basically rearranged their itinerary or specifically went to a sanctuary to support it and stuff like that, to support the right side of animal tourism. And to me, it was very like, you hear the telephone game, how things just kind of extend, but to me, it was also very like, it was very humbling to see how like, just my experience, just sharing it, just educating people, just engaging people in what's going on, definitely made such an impact, like in the long run. So also just want to say that like, as you guys are going through your different like careers and challenges and, making decisions and, weighing out like opportunities and stuff, like just know that like, and not in any way adding pressure, but just saying like every small thing you do can make such a like ripple of positive impact. So never underestimate the good that you're doing. Like you can't cancel out positivity. It's like you start here and it literally like ripples through. So I also hope to encourage people in that sense as well. And so I continued volunteering abroad to keep like maximizing, hopefully like setting an example, but also learning myself. So this is at Animal Rescue Kingdom in Thailand. They have a lot of stray animals there, so it was really cool to help basically with like spays, neuters, and surgeries and all those experiences. So even though like I wasn't like I'm not a veterinarian here in the country, like I was able to with supervision assist in a lot of procedures, and I feel like in those countries people are grateful for whatever they can get. So it was just also like very, very rewarding to see like how far I can make an impact. And then I went to also Amazonico in Tana, Ecuador, and this was right before the Amazon caught on fire a couple of years ago. And it was really great. So this animal here is called a tapir. I had no idea this existed. It looks like an anteater hippo, and it's really intimidating because they just like, there's one that they released at Amazonico that basically kept coming back because he knew that's where the food was. And I had no idea what that was. It just like emerged out of the bushes, and I was like fearing for my life. So yeah, so definitely like, and this was a really cool thing. I also wanted to talk about how like there's different kinds of tourism, but also what I got to learn about like from understanding like sustainability from like a macro scale and from a global scale, and how I, all the way from Los Angeles or San Diego, can make an impact that affects all the way in Ecuador. Like it just goes so far. And all of the decisions we make also make a difference, whether it's like choosing not to do palm oil, etc. Like you can definitely apply what you're studying. Even if you don't feel like it could go to a grand scale, it totally can. And again, I just wanted to talk about that. And so, yeah, so at Amazonico, basically, the government like seizes a bunch of animals that were illegally taken from the Amazon rainforest, and they have different programs. They have the quarantine program, and then the like non-releasable stations and the releasable stations, and hopefully like each animal can graduate through the stations. And at first like they're quarantined because we don't know like what they've been exposed to and like what diseases they carry. We don't want them to affect a whole like flock of birds or a whole thing of monkeys. While I was there, it was kind of sad. Like there was some sort of, again with the parasites, right, like you wouldn't think about it, but a couple of monkeys like died, and it was really sudden and we couldn't figure out what was wrong. And again, like that's why quarantine is so important, even like in the animal aspect, not just in the people aspect. But yeah, and then we definitely saw some releases. I got to help with releasing a couple of river turtles in this like specific government protected park, and then I also got to help put on a sorry, that's my dog, he's upset. I got to put on a like those location collars, those monitoring collars on a spider monkey. Her name was Sherlock, and she got to be released, which was also pretty cool. Just like everything that everyone's doing is also from like everyone's just trying their best to make the most of what's going on. But then it was also great to just see like how far this was going. And just going back to how I was saying, like the ripple effects, like I learned that in this program that they have all these parrots, for example. And I learned like, you know, apparently parrots mate for life. And they don't discriminate on like orientation. Like it'll be like a guy and a guy, or a girl and a girl, or a guy and a girl. And they just like will stick together. And even the ones that were released will come back and like look over the fence and wait for their mate to be released too, which is also like cool. I hope that warmed everyone's hearts at night. But also like even like when it comes to these exotic birds as pets, right? Like everyone thinks like, you know, like they're cute. Like I see them dance to music, like that warms my heart. But apparently like to export them, they have to do it like they have to do it like sneakingly and subtly. So they wrap them up in these little pipes, and for every one parrot in a household, 40 had to die in transportation. So again, like me, I would have never learned that like statistic. It's not on, you know, it's not on Web of Science database, it's not in any papers, but then you have people here who work with the government who learned that from Ecuador. So I got to go there and hear firsthand from government officials from this program all of that, and then I can come back and talk about it here. So I just also again just reiterating that like you can really make a big difference from even the smallest little thing. So yeah, I just want to encourage everyone just to, you know, going off of the questions of like how do you know and where do you go and what do you do, like it's not very direct and you don't really like acknowledge it at that time, but you can do so much and go so far with so little. So just remember that, and I hope that I hope if anything you take away from today, I hope it's that. So yeah, so I went here to Amazonigo in Ecuador, and then now I'm back and I'm working on you know, preparing for applications and just fixing up my applications and resumes for vet school. And I work right now at a veterinary clinic. And for me, you know, I hear a lot of people talk about, and this may not be relevant to you guys, whether you're working now or going to work after you graduate, but I hear a lot of people be like, yeah, I applied to all these places and they offered me this much money and it was so great and life was so good and I'm so wanted, I'm on demand, you know, and that definitely like wasn't the case for me. Like I literally, like how I got this job was also like another situation. I don't know why I like it's like the number was on the screen like in front of my eyes, like 28. So I printed 28 resumes, 28 cover letters, and I even like wrote the date on it, you know, and I'm like, this is where we go. So then I drove around the city, like up and down the streets, and I just like showed up dressed up and I was like, hi, can I speak to your hiring manager or your, you know, or your hospital administrator? Like, my name is this and I'm looking for a job, I'm recent graduate, like hello, you know. And at the very end of the day, like it was already nightfall and I had 3 more papers. And some people sat down and talked to me throughout the day. And some people were like, I could tell they just took it to be nice, but probably threw it away after. And keep in mind again, like how many, like 28, right? So then I was looking on Google and I was like, where do I go? And even like basically a vet clinic I had passed by, its name is Green Dog Dental, and it's near my house. I've driven by this like 1,000 times, and I don't know, I thought it was like a groomer or something. They clean the dog's teeth. I never thought twice about it. I didn't realize it was a vet clinic, but then when I typed it on Google, nearby vet, just out of desperation, like the sustainability in me was like, I cannot waste a paper with today's date. Like I can't use it tomorrow and I can't throw this away. Like it has to go for purpose, like, you know. So I went to this thing, and it's on the 2nd level and the stairs were locked. And the valet guy or whatever downstairs was like, oh, like, I could let you upstairs or whatever. So he lets me upstairs. I go there, lights are off. I'm like, great. I was honestly gonna go home. I honestly was like, okay, like I'll just come back tomorrow. But then I don't know why, like a part of me just felt like, oh, this guy took the time out of his day to let me in. Like I should value that. Like I'm not even valuing my own time. I value this random person's time. Slid my stuff under the paper. An hour later, the owner calls me. And he's like, hey, like, you know, I got your resume and I'm really impressed. Like, you're very ambitious. You're this, you're that. I saw your volunteer stuff. I relate. I like that too, whatever. We're talking. And everywhere I applied that day, like, I was kind of like shy to be like, and I'm leaving in a couple of years because I got to go to vet school, you know, like, just for now, because everyone wants someone long-term. I didn't know how to be like, and I'm going to be in school, by the way, please be flexible, and I'm going to leave you in 3 years, and I don't know anything I'm doing, by the way, let me in, you know, like, it was very, like, shy. But he, off the bat, was like, what are your goals? I think you want to go to vet school, right? And he was very, like, I don't know, it just clicked. And I was like, yeah, I do want to go to vet school. When are you applying? Maybe in a couple of years. Okay, sounds perfect. And I'm going to make sure that you have all the techniques you need before you get in, whether it be, like, tech stuff or, like, reading stuff or understanding prescriptions or reading radiographs, whatever. And it was just such a, like, by chance thing that, like, even though I got other like interviews, the way that this clicked, like, I just didn't even look back. And so, like, I just want to say, like, it wasn't easy. Like, at first I applied to 14 places, heard back from one. I got a bad vibe. And you have to also remember, when you apply, it's not just you applying to them. Like, you have to make sure they fit you. And this place did not fit me. Like, they were very like, oh, at our place we have all these people spending all this money. And I was like, this is not a fashion mall. This is a veterinary clinic. Like, I have to go now. And it wasn't a fit. And then I applied to those 20 million places afterwards. And it did click, even though I heard only back from 3 places. This place, Green Dog Dental, I was like, the way, like, I was honest. He knows where I am. He knows where I stand. He wants to mentor me. Like, this is all I need. I'm going forward. And I also want to set that as an example of, like, people will say how they get into, like, workplaces and they're on demand, stuff like that. It's not easy, and it wasn't for me, and it still, like, clicked, and I'm like, don't look back. So just, like, don't get stressed out when you're applying. Just be confident in your capabilities, and just, you know, you have to grab more than what you just have to apply to everything, and maybe you'll hear from a couple of things, but then it'll be better than expected. So I could talk about now Green Dog Dental. So this is me at work, you know, with the little puppy babies. He's bigger now. He's a little crazy, but yeah. So I help out the veterinarians. I'm like a veterinary assistant there, and then also my boss, like, he has, like, geckos that he's breeding, and he's doing all of these things, like people who have, like, wolves and stuff like that, like, from kind of the mountains of LA, come to us for stuff, and he lets me, like, you know, first I had to watch, and now I get to help, you know, now I'm in charge of things. Like, I'm in charge of these geckos. I take care of them. I get to, like, choose all of these things for them. You know, it's pretty interesting. I get to watch them incubate and, you know, hatch and everything, which is, like, you know, pretty cool. And then this is Eric. So we have a new veterinarian, and I also wanted to talk about this because I've come so far from marine biology, right? Like, I went from a math major to this major to that major to I'm going to be a veterinarian. So I want to go into wildlife conservation. And how is this relevant? Well, it actually still all applies, right? So I'm learning techniques here, not just, like, veterinary tech skills, but also, like, other skills. Like, I have to do a lot of MacGyver stuff, you know, where I have to improvise, which is also pretty cool. And then this is, like, Eric, basically. And so this is, like, laser therapy. We do acupuncture and all of that. And yeah, so sorry, I had to check the messages because I feel like I've talked for a while. I'm really sorry, everybody. I just really, like, I love my job, you know, and I just really want to talk about it. And I really hope to inspire you guys, because Hope can attest, it has not been easy for me. And I felt like everything was, like, a huge wall saying absolutely not. And it felt like, you know, the odds were never in my favor. And then here I am all these years later with, like, it turns out, like, every obstacle was necessary to get me where I needed to go. And I didn't understand at the time, but now I can be grateful. So yeah, so I get to help this veterinarian who does Eastern medicine here. So now we have a new veterinarian who does integrative medicine, which is really cool. And then I think about how even in the long term, when I be hopefully a wildlife vet, we have to be able to, like, improvise on what's going on. And little things like, just, like, honestly with everything, like, for example, when we were in Amazonico, we needed to tranquilize, we needed to literally, like, tranquilize an animal in an enclosure and get it out, but we can't go in because it's like, you know, if it's like me and like 30 spider monkeys, like who's gonna win, you know, like come on. But it's not like we have access to all of these equipments and technologies and whatever. So we took an expo marker, took it apart, put a needle in it, and created a DIY like tranquilizer dart. Like we took a pipe and like we just blew out this expo marker, and we like, you just have to be ready for that. And I mean, like, it's like from the engineering aspect, that's important, but from the medicinal aspect, it also is important. So I get to shadow this veterinarian. I'm her personal assistant at work with like, this is laser therapy. This cat has high anxiety, but we also have animals with like arthritis and things like that. We had this pug that basically had like a diagnosis of 3 days to live. And then he was doing therapies with us and he lived another 8 weeks. So like, you can kind of see how like, whether it's just like you only do Western or you only do Eastern or you integrate them, you can just see how they make a difference. So I'm so lucky that like, even though I'm in a specialty clinic, I get to see how far like this stuff can go. And also, by the way, like I never commented on this, but we don't just clean teeth. I was so wrong. Like we do so much. We do surgeries, we do spays. We do radiographies, we do X-rays, ultrasounds. We do so much stuff there, and it's really been cool. And so this Eastern aspect's also been cool. And then I also had, I don't know how I could do this. I wanted to show a video, but basically, yeah, he has like high anxiety to the point that he's panting, and that's not really normal for cats. And this owner like is really concerned about that. So that's his laser goggles. He likes them. And then so I just do laser therapy on him. And again, like it's really cool to learn all of these things. You guys can still see my screen, right? Okay, great. So this is a little like, I'm gonna talk through this. This is a little like a time lapse of me doing laser therapy. That's what that ice is. That's Eric over there. He is just like hanging out. This was when I was doing like the back, but then later on I had to do like the rest of him and I had his goggles on. So yeah, goggles should always be on, by the way. Don't tell my boss, please. But yeah, so and it's like from every point, like we also do a lot of herbs. And so here's also something really fun I got to like learn and look up for the veterinarian was apparently like, and it's for people too. We have dogs that come in with like severe allergies, and people also have allergies, seasonal allergies. And so we learned that like if you go to like, let's say a nearby like bee colony or farmer's market or something and acquire honey, it's exposed to a lot of the like seasonal like bloomings, and if you like give that to an animal or a person, that can actually be like a homeopathic way to treat for seasonal allergies. Like little things like that I feel like can prepare me in the long run. Like even though I love this job and if I work with dogs and cats, I'm not going to be upset, but like obviously I want to save the animals. Like I feel like in the long run, like little things like this I can take with me when I'm abroad and I literally have nothing, and I can turn around and be like, oh, anybody have honey, you know? Like so yeah, so that's my little spiel on where I am in life and all the little things that have gotten me to where I am. And I'm gonna exit my UCSD graduate and all these things. I can't figure this Zoom thing out. If anyone can help me, I don't know how to exit from my screen. Oh, there. Pause share, stop share.
There you go.
Thank you. So if anyone has any questions, I talked about so much. I went on so many tangents. I said it was going to be pretty informal. I wanted things to be conversational with you guys. So yeah, let me know if you guys have any questions you want me to address. I'm really sorry I talked your ear off. I really love my field, and I really hope to inspire people.
Okay, 1, don't apologize. 2, pictures of pathogen faces are always welcome.
Okay.
3, I'm gonna need more information about the DIY tranquilizer dart / all of it. Also, wow, to both of you, this is amazing. And there was just like a live stream in the chat of reactions there.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody.
Listening to her, I also wanted to add like another piece of advice that I was thinking is your support system. Like she talked about, we were in that library so many times. We were like, am I in the right place? Am I doing the right thing? And we kind of had each other in another group that was just like, yes, like there are going to be times, as much as you love what you might be doing, there's going to be times it's hard. So just try to find people around you who care and know you and are willing to support you through those times when, even when you love it, it's still difficult.
Yeah.
I love Anya. She's the best.
Yeah, no, Hope is awesome. Like, definitely, I didn't really know, like, going into UCSD anything about, like, if I was gonna do a sorority. I was so, like, I was literally like, pigeonholing towards, like, must get into great, like, medical impact or veterinary impacts or whatever. And then when I joined Phi Rho and I met all of my sisters, that was definitely like a huge support team. And there were many times where I felt like, like when you're at a split roads and you're like, which way do I go? What do I do? Or what do I have in front of me? And I definitely felt like I was able to have, like, hope and like other people. Like, your support system is very important. Different people have different understandings, different experiences, you can learn from their mistakes, for example, like little things like that. Or there was even once a situation that, like, a class situation that I completely like misread and just took as is and blamed myself, and Hope was like, no. And Hope like literally stood up for me when I didn't realize that like that needed to happen. Like, just the support system is so important in so many different ways. So definitely like that also I think is what got me so far, because like, I mean, I talked about everything and it sounded all like rosy daisy, guys. Like it really was. And like, I had a really bad GPA. Like, I was like, it was to the point that I was like begging teachers like for any opportunity to help me fix my grades. Like, like being an RA was also such a challenge. Like, my residents were definitely a wild deck of cards where it was like finals week, like this person beat someone up because they coughed in the living room and he was upset, or this person overdosed on caffeine and she has like a pacemaker, and like this happened and this happened. I was like, just like, but now I feel like, even then I was like, why is this all happening to me? I'm suffering, and I had my support from my friends. But now I look back and I'm like, I have to be flexible to different kinds of personalities. I can't choose, just like with patients, like I can't choose, one day I'll have a very nice dog. The next day I'll have a dog that needs, like I have to, hello puppy, puts towel over her head, like you just have to like be ready for anything. So yeah, definitely like your support system is really important to help you make it through a lot of lessons you're learning when you don't even realize that they're lessons. Definitely agree with Hope. She's great. She's awesome. But yeah, I'm looking through the comments. Does anybody have any questions?
Yes. This is for Anya, can you talk a little bit more about the Eastern medicine for animals? Because this is the first time I've ever heard of it.
Sure. So I'm definitely still learning myself, to be honest. This veterinarian, she was in that little like fast forward clip. She actually recently graduated from vet school and she just started working with us. So I'm still like learning from her myself, but basically she graduated from Kai Institute and like has a master's in public health. And so she knows all of these different herbal practices. And so she prescribes like actual like herbal drugs to give to like literally just herbal capsules basically to give to animals under certain situations. But obviously from my understanding, I mean, no bias, but total bias. I think that they work best in an integrative format. Like, for example, like we have this, Cavalier King Charles Spaniel. Those dogs are genetically predisposed to heart failure, right? And so this owner is like having us do all of these therapies because she's there like every Saturday. She's our most frequent person and she wants to do all these things for her dog. And she does like everything the vet like recommends, she does, except like she's not doing things like at home where it's like, we're like, this dog has heavy arthritis, he's going to need like pain medicine. She's like, no, only homeopathic stuff. And it's like, well, like, that's not going to help in the long run. Like, this dog is very old, has heavy arthritis, or I mentioned this dog the dogs are genetically predisposed to heart failures. So like when it comes to stuff like that, you can't really do much about it, but you would need like diet and exercise is so important because the more overweight a dog or a cat is, the harder the heart failure is going to start like taking a toll on them. So we're telling like, it's like she's so dedicated to everything, but then when we're saying like, can you please go ahead and go with like medicinal stuff, she's like hesitant about it, or like just little things like overweight stuff. I don't think I should be talking about patient stuff, so please no one like repeat this. I don't want to get in trouble at work. But this is a theoretical example. I don't know what you guys are talking about. But yeah, so like
that talking about a case, we're very interested in your nondescript case study.
Yeah, and then there's also this drug called Yunin Bao, which I think it's really interesting because it comes in like a package of like 16 capsules, and we've used it before where sometimes like you know, every animal is individual, and this dog basically, like in surgery, let's say it's not clotting properly. You're like, what do we do? What do we do? We could give it a Unibrow, right? But apparently with each like case, there's this like little tiny yellow pill in the middle that like no one knew what it did. And the set was like, oh, that's called, like, we call it the up the butt pill, where literally like it's like complete, like, you know, codes, whatever emergencies, you can just put it up the butt and it like resolves like whatever the issues is. Like we do, so we can treat it with herbal stuff. She also does like laser therapy. And what's really cool about that, and you know, like, I'm not hating on physics, but it's really cool to have an application of physics, is that you can control the level of energy of the laser itself, so that you could choose like how deep you want it to penetrate through. So a dog with skin allergies would have a less stronger, like, you know, hertz of the laser, versus like a dog with like, maybe you have an animal with like irritable bowel syndrome or something like that, and it's so bad, like, you know, you do use like prescribed drugs for it, but you're also like, what else could I do to just help this, like help the body kind of like float it better? You could totally increase the dosage, and it could go all the way to like the, you know, digestive system, and help break down particles and just like kind of assist the digestive system in doing its job. So like that's an example of like integrative medicine that I could see like go far. So like there's like stuff like that, you know. The pollen thing, the honey thing is just one of those, like, it's just things that I'm learning about like day by day. Like it's not something that we can technically like prescribe or, you know, say, but it's things that we can like recommend. But then I look how, like, you know, when I'm abroad, how they literally are relying on their environment, you know. Even like, for example, like you know, for example, in Thailand, they have all of these landmines all around them, and it's very common for animals to step on these landmines. And elephants, who are like, you know, tons, right? Like if they have an injury on one leg and you amputate it or whatever, like that deforms the elephant. They get depressed, they're in pain, they can't walk, whatever. And recently someone developed a casting system. It's literally made out of sand and silicone and something else. It takes like an hour to make. It's very like cheap when it comes to the materials, but it can go so far. And you have an elephant, let's say it could even get like, it gets like, it needs an amputation at a young age, it can mold through age, like as the body changes, as it gains weight, loses weight, as its joints change, whatever. Like, so it's like we're learning about how medicine increases every day, which is great, but then you also have to think about accessibility, people with what they are exposed to. So like that's how I think it's really cool that someone like discovered something like that. Or like when I was in Ecuador, right, like I got like engulfed by mosquitoes. Like, I mean, literally like every little like corner of me was like swollen. And the people I live with, I didn't talk about this, but I stayed at a lodge with the native, like, indigenous people there. So they're like called Quichuas, and they know their environment so well. Literally, they're like, oh, you have mosquitoes? They just literally like put their hand on a tree, rip off a chunk of like termites, and start like rubbing it on my arm. And I was like there's live bugs on me, like, that, how does that help, you know? But apparently those termites also eat mosquitoes. So by crushing the nest on me, it had this oil that repels the mosquitoes. I'd be like, I have a headache. They like would grab their herbs, you know, from whatever the tree, crush it, make it a tea, and I'd feel better. So it's like, I think it's really important when it comes to Eastern medicine. Like, I'm learning as I go. I'm not really sure if I answered your question. So it's like we have those prescribed pills and things like that we're doing for animals, which is cool. But it's also great to see how you could totally like use your environment to your benefit. I don't know if I answered your question, because we do have also like laser therapy and acupuncture. So yeah, I talked about the laser therapy part. The acupuncture is very interesting because they're like specific points, and every point has a certain purpose. And you know, I mean, it sounds silly, but we have to, like, the reason why I'm this vet's assistant is because I always, like, I take it seriously, and I walk in with like the intention of like, I must play the plinky plunky music. I must like, and then I'll be like, you know, I'll ask the dog like, can I have your arm, you know, and then I'll like laser this arm, you know. It's like, it sounds ridiculous, but then think about it from the perspective of an animal. It's not with its owner, who it eats, drinks, and sleeps with. It's in this random environment, you know, maybe we have, and it's like, okay, the plinky plunky music, for example, like, I think that's better than like slamming doors, machines, the sterilizer, the autoclave, the surgery beeps, the monitors, the everything. Like, I like, you know, like that's pretty overwhelming. So it's like, plinky plunky music, like even though like it sounds silly, like just like all those little details can go kind of far, you know. And like me asking an animal for their arm like might sound silly, but I feel like that's better than me just like yanking an animal's arm and be like, give it to me, you know. So it's like all these little things, you know. Even like with the goggles, like sometimes I'll ask that kitty, like I'll be like, can I put on goggles? And this kitty lets me. Sometimes he doesn't want it, and I'm like, okay, like I don't want to stress you out. You want to like minimize what will stress them out, because I feel like definitely like from a psychological level, that's also important to consider how a stressed out body is more exposed to, you know, the gookies, right? Can you tell I'm ready for vet school? But definitely, like, I hope I answered your questions.
You did. Thank
Okay.
you.
Sorry. Any other questions? Any comments?
Roxanne asked in the chat how you would do that for a combative dog.
A combative dog?
I'm not sure to which point, if that was about the acupressure or the laser treatments or just the general therapies.
I don't know if combative is the same word that you would use for animals, but like an aggressive dog, how would you do acupuncture on him? Do you guys have to sedate him first, or how does that work?
I've never been in that situation yet. We've had a lot of aggressive animals. And I think it's very important to think about with aggression. And I think this is important to think about in general when you're exposed to animals. There's different kinds of aggressive. There's like aggressive because they genuinely are like out to get you. And there's aggressive because they're fear. And I feel like you have to really read the environment, and like, you know, people joke about the, oh, come here, like, but that's important, you know. Some tricks that we use is like, you know, even like the dental cleaning. So we do non-sedated dental cleanings, and I know that's kind of like, how do you do that with dogs, right? So like one of the tricks one of the techs told me is like, when I bring him the dog, he's like, I can't make eye contact with this dog, like, so just give it to me like from behind. And that's a thing even with dogs that are like aggressive in cages. Sometimes we just like put a towel over them, hopefully to cover their head, and then we just kind of like, and then we pull the towel from underneath them so that they're kind of backing out. They're like, what's going on? Where am I? But they're not like seeing you and ready to attack, you know? But with aggressive dogs, like I said, like if it's a fear animal, you just have to be ready. And actually, like there's some animals, like even like the one that we do acupuncture for, because he's arthritic, he has some places he's not happy with where he's literally growled at us for. And it's like, okay, like we won't like touch that arm anymore. We won't touch that mid region anymore. Like you just have to like respect their spaces. I think it's just with any aggressive animal, we would go slow. I gave that specific example because it's like you have to respect if they're not gonna want you to touch that area, don't touch that area. If they're reacting to everything you touch after that, then don't touch anything at all after. You know, you might have to build up to it. And a lot of it is building up to it. Like we had this dog a couple of weeks ago that basically was like on high alert aggression, but it was a fear aggression. And like this dog, it went from the owner's hands to the receptionist's hands into my hands. And this dog was never put in a cage. We literally made it a little like sling so that I could walk around like with this dog in my hands. And it sounds silly, but this dog apparently has like extreme like anxiety because, you know, he was abused when he was a puppy, and this is his second owner or whatever. So it's like you have like, so just like from that experience, like this dog was extremely aggressive. Like literally we had to write on the file, like, will bite, do not hesitate that it will bite you. Like we had to put on like leather gloves and stuff like that, so like we were ready in case it went at us. But you just have to be like mindful with the space that they're giving you. But with time, we went slow. We didn't pull him, we didn't push him, we didn't do anything. So that goes back to me being like, can I have this paw? You know, can I please take some blood from you? Like, I promise it's for your benefit, whatever. Like, that's also like the same thing as like when the other texts are like going slow. So I feel like you just have to like read things as they go. But I've never seen them do like Eastern stuff on a sedated animal. I'm not sure. Like I can totally look into that if you want. I'll put my email back again. You could totally email me, and I could follow back on that with you. I'll ask my vet that I help out. Hope that semi answered your question.
We will add the emails as well to the event page for anybody who's watching the recording after the fact. They don't get to see the chat.
Yeah. So regarding to Roxanne's like concern about pets having a bad time at the vets, honestly, every clinic is very different. I can't speak on every clinic's, perspective. I can speak about the two that I've worked at, and I feel like, I really hope there are people in that clinic who work there because they love animals and they're not just gonna like let an animal that's like uncomfortable remain uncomfortable. We try our best to make every animal remain comfortable. For us, it's especially important because if we're working on them for like non-anesthetic dental cleanings, like it's like, how are you gonna have a stressed out dog? Like, and then be like, hey, let me look in your mouth. Recipe for disaster. But we've even done aggressive dogs without sedation for dental cleanings. It just depends, like, if it's like 100-something pound, like, Pyrenees Mountain Dog, like, no, like we can't do that. It's overpowering everyone. But if it's like Chihuahuas or, whatever, like we've treated them in non-anesthetic meanings. And it's also just a lot of like going slow, and everyone's really mindful of patients. And so I hope that's how it is everywhere. I can't speak for every clinics we have, but on my clinics, it's definitely the side. Everyone there loves animals, so, which should be that way, right? In the vet field.
In any medical field.
In any medical field, yeah, yeah. Or law field, right, Hope?
I have a question for Hope. So you said you started off with your degree in Scotland. What was the experience like? Why did you choose Scotland, and how was it coming back from Scotland?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's kind of a long answer, so if like we're running out of time, let me know. So I was actually a gymnast my entire growing up life and had planned to go to a college here in the United States for gymnastics. I was born with a birth defect that we didn't know about, and suddenly ended my kind of college gymnastics career and had missed a lot of the United States school deadlines for applying. And Scotland had a foundational program that allowed me to kind of play catch up because I had missed obviously some school from having a spinal surgery. And so I kind of, like Anya was saying, on a whim, random, like it was a program that I found and I went for it, and it kind of turned out to be a lot better than I ever could have imagined. It was, my first week was kind of hard. I had someone who actually was like, you belong in a shopping mall and not engineering. And it sounds bad saying it back, but it's one of the things that I am most grateful for in my college career. I called my parents and they were like, all right, you have an option. You can either stay and like decide that you belong here and that you have earned a place here, or you can back down and back out. And I stayed. And not only did I stay, I was able to have experiences over that first year that the person who said that to me, we actually became very good friends near the end of it. And it was such a lesson in someone might just be coming from a different perspective than you. And even if something happens that you might really, not be the best situation, you can always, if you want to, put the effort in to try to make it like a good situation and a learning situation for everyone involved. In terms of academics, it was an extremely academically challenging time. Like I had said, I had missed kind of a lot of my senior high school math and had been thrown into an engineering program in which I was like expected to already have college level math, and I didn't. And so it was an accelerated, I was in class from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. every single day. And coming back then to the States was a little bit different as well. I had planned on doing my full bachelor's there, but did have some medical stuff that kind of required me to come back to the States. So I actually went to a community college in California, and I had known that I wanted to go to UCSD, but I was a Washington State resident, and I went to a UCSD tour, and they were like, it's really unlikely you'll get in as an out-of-state resident. The only thing you could do is go to a California community college, maybe get some units in to hopefully try to get priority. And so I did. I moved to go to community college. Everyone kind of thought it was the most wild thing. Like, why would you move to a different state to go to a state community college? And I stuck with it. And I even heading then into United States academia, I'm so grateful for the abroad experience that I have, because I've I've brought that with me in many instances, and I've also brought it with me when I know that someone who I'm interacting with might have a very different perspective from me. And I always, especially in law school, it's really important that I think for discussions that need to be had that are really difficult discussions, it's just remembering that someone might be coming from the best of intentions and that might not be coming through in that conversation. So to always walk into different conversations, trusting the best in people, and people might not always be the best, but I'd rather walk into a conversation believing that they are and give them the chance to you know, have that opportunity. And yeah, that's a little bit about my Scotland time. If you have any questions about that specific program, it was like a full year, and I graduated with a certificate in engineering. And I actually, after I finished law school, want to go to get an LLM abroad because I'm interested in patent policy internationally. And that would have never happened if I hadn't taken the random opportunity to go to Scotland for my first year of school. So yeah, I speak more to the issues of tagging device and what sort of progress had been made in the area. For sure. I don't know if Anya can speak to this too, but during my time in marine biology, it was kind of a lot of doom and gloom, to be honest. It was very like, oh, these are all the problems and these are all the bad things happening, and we're kind of just stuck with it, and people don't care, and the world is like falling apart and all these things. And engineering was the opposite for me, and that they were very like excited about problem solving and helping and innovating and creating. And so with the tag issue, I think a lot more progress is being made currently. I don't know if Anya knows too much about this as well, but I think that a lot of it is just bringing different minds into the field that haven't been there before, especially engineers. I've been trying to, any engineer I come into contact with, I'm like, hey, there are world problems, please like take your knowledge and apply it. And as we were at ASU, our team for that, the senior design team was reaching out to different companies and was saying, hey, like, have you guys heard about this? Are you working on this? Are you doing this? And we were getting amazing responses from engineering companies who would be working on maybe like a specific piece of an Arduino. And they were responding and they're like, oh, you know what? Yeah, we'll go contact this company who's involved in this and let's see if they're doing this. And I think by word of mouth and conversations, in terms of progress for tagging devices specifically, we actually, over the course of our year of research, found that a lot of companies were willing to get involved and do things. So I'm really hopeful that that actually continues. I don't know if there's any progress in terms of that's been like made public, because obviously engineering research tends to kind of stay private as it's happening, but I would hope over the next few years the companies that at least our team contacted continue to work on it and do it. So yeah, I guess that's like a shout out to, if you have something you're passionate about, it might be limited resources as a student, talk to people who maybe have more resources than you. Like, don't be afraid. They'll probably say no. I think our group had like a running list of about 50 companies we had contacted, but like, hey, 5 of them were willing to help us out and were willing to learn about it. So those 5, like if even one of them continues this on, like it'll have mattered. So definitely don't be afraid of like rejection and everything else, just keep at it.
Or it's resume number 26 that you slide under a locked office door that puts you on your path.
Absolutely.
Yeah, to add on to what Hope said, I also wanted to mention that yeah, there was a lot of overlookings of doom and gloom, but I feel like definitely like you have to look into the fact that it's like look at stakeholders, and I feel like it's not just like the scientists have to fix this or the politicians have to fix that. We're like a community. We're really not even a local community. We're really a global community. We could even focus on a micro scale, but we have to try to look into what it is that encourages every stakeholder, whether it be the local politician or the local, you know, it could even be like the local accountant who just does like taxes for the IRS or whatever, but maybe their company or the way that they run things, or they know people or something. And there's always like it's always like in the sense of networking, but it's also more of a collaboration to go into anything. That's also something I'm learning right now with like, whether it be like environmental, you know, from environmental aspect or any other like concerns you have. It's not like life isn't unfortunately an equation of input, output, success, right? And even you can rearrange different like factors and variables and it's never the same, but you need to make sure that you can like one of the classes I took, it was basically like a climate change class I took with Dr. Ramanathan. He is really inspiring. He even speaks to like the California firefighters dealing with fires and the Pope and everything on how to deal with climate change. And something he said that really encouraged me was just that it was just, you have to know your audience and how to make whatever you're trying to pitch important to who you're talking to and why they care. Because even, for example, like with these fires, I don't know where you guys are, but right now, like California is like, you know, devastated with these fires. It doesn't matter if you live in, you know, Malibu or Beverly Hills or downtown, or you're, you know, you're right-sided or left-sided, or what your religion is, or, you know, what your ethnicity is. Like, it doesn't matter where you live and who you are and what you are. Everyone is exposed right now to this pollution, to this fires. Like, it doesn't discriminate. And so I feel like you just have to find a way to make whoever you're talking to care about, whether it's like, this is why you should save the elephants, or, you know, this is why the specific law that we're trying to pass is very important, or, you know, whatever your guys is, you know, this is why I should support my research, it's going into, you know, etc. Like, you need to look into who you're speaking to and why they should care. And that's how you're going to get far. Because, and it's not just that you're trying to get them to care for a sense of like, well, I care about this, so you should care about this too, but really like, many of these issues are everyone's concerns, but maybe they're not aware of it. And so it's, how do you make them aware of it? How do you pull at the thread that, you know, that unravels whatever like understanding they have, so they can be more open-minded to what you're trying to say. So definitely, like, there's a lot of doom and gloom. It's very, like, I've been hearing about like global warming since I was 8, and it was very like discouraging, and, you know, climate anxiety is real, but you also have to look into the positive. Like, humans are the problem, but we're also the solution. And that can only happen if we all collaborate. Just want to touch up on that.
That's a tremendous like wrap up sentence right there. Like, for everything, for all avenues of this, for engineering, for oceanography, for marine biology, for, gosh, Anya, you alone have gone from the micro to the macro just within biology, and Hope, you've just like selected from all these different disciplines and then created this tremendous path for yourself. This has been incredible. Thank you both for coming and speaking with us about your journey. And it honestly, it's two more unique stories about how it's that little moment that you don't see coming that completely changes your trajectory. And it's incredibly inspiring, and especially given that our student population is made of non-traditional students, is what they call us, which is, I mean, who's traditional really anymore? So we're over that, particularly with the advent of global pandemic, going back to there's no isolated incidents that you were talking about, Anya. But hearing that perspective, especially when we are early on in our journey, is incredible, and I really, really appreciate it. Thank you both. We will include your emails in the event details as well, and this recording will be posted to our YouTube, and I'll send you both a link. I also would like to thank Itziel. Itziel found Hope, I believe, was speaking on an engineering panel for Welcome Week. Itziel went, oh, yes, let me just make that connection, and Hope brought in Anya, and it was incredible, and we're very grateful. And Itziel, thank you again for another tremendous guest.
No, thank both of these ladies. They are wonderful. Definitely went above and beyond what we expected.
Hope, I didn't realize you were in the online program as well. Ah, yes.
Yeah, we did that entire research project with people everywhere. We had someone who was on campus who was like helping with our faculty in their lab to actually like do the physical part of it. But I think especially as an online student, this will be my last piece of advice. Sorry to keep talking.
No, please.
I went from being an on-campus student at UC San Diego to then being an online student, and I think it was a very, it was a different transition for me because I'd been, you know, so active. I'd been a cheerleader and in sorority, and I went from all that to then feeling that I wasn't necessarily getting the experience that I was used to in an online environment. But please take advantage of it. There are so many wonderful opportunities. Like when I was here, I drove down to UCSD and asked some of my professors for help during our research project. So just because you're an online student, like, please use that as an opportunity and not as something that you might feel like is sometimes a barrier.
Yeah, that is one of the things both of you talked about, finding your people, finding your network, and that's one of the things that it's actually why Ideas existed. It came out of a group of students who were in a study group for a single class, and then we all started talking and we were on similar career paths and like future plans, and then that grew into this amazing thing that it has become. But there's more online clubs popping up. In this year alone, we've seen a tremendous increase in the variety of clubs, and there's actually 2 sororities right now who are getting started as well for online students specifically. So it's really neat to see the community at large kind of coming together, both pre and during pandemics. So, okay.
For the Sun Devils Engineers Club, they're like at ASU, so if you're an engineer and like interested in that at all, definitely go for that too.
Yes. Thank you so much. All right. If you have any more questions as well, you can add them to the Facebook event or the SDS event, and we can pass them along, or you can email them directly. Both Hope and Anya have given emails, which we will include. I just don't even know what to say other than thank you, and I learned so much tonight, and I really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you very, very much.